So what would a digital dollar mean for Bitcoin in the broader crypto space? Let's bring in our very own Bitcoin baller, Brian Kelly. Brian, good to hear from you. I kind of thought that dollars were already sort of digital. I mean, I can send you money via Venmo or PayPal or Zelle or whatever. I mean, isn't that the case right now?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much already have a digital dollar already. I mean, how many people, if you have kids, you know that they never, ever use cash. Everything is going to electronic payments. So, I don't think there's really that big of a deal about a digital dollar. On the other hand, I think it would be just fantastic for Bitcoin, because what you do know is that once the Fed has a digital wallet and they can put more money in there, they will continue to print that money, and that is just the exact opposite value proposition from Bitcoin.
Oh, so you think that if the Fed actually goes ahead with the digital dollar, that would mean that they would print more money because it's just that much easier?
Yeah, I think exactly. There's two things. I mean, instead of mailing out stimulus checks, they just simply credit your wallet with more money. Alternatively, if they wanted to get you to spend that money, they put $1,400 in there, and if you don't spend it within a week, they take $100 out, and that gets you to create. That gets inflation creating, velocity, all of those type of things. Again, I think it would be really good for Bitcoin.
So I think Bitcoin is a bet on the future of humanity. It's a bet on human ingenuity, as Paul Tudor Jones said, and I think he said it right. And how do you price that, right? How did you price TCP/IP, right? Like, was that a bubble? Yeah, sure. There were some companies built on top of TCP/IP that were bubbles during .com 1.0, but this is just a complete paradigm shift. We've had this is the first new layer one money in 5,000 years.
As an investor, are you solely in Bitcoin, Stacey?
Bitcoin is the fastest horse in the race. Once you own Bitcoin, that meme, I am the central bank.
And this is one of the perils of Bitcoin investing that goes unreported, undiscussed, and that really investors need to pay attention to. It is a seriously cornered asset class where only about 0.05% of Bitcoin investors control over 40% of all Bitcoin. And this is a serious, serious problem. And even if we go down a little further, we can see that about just under 0.5% of all investors control over 5/6 of Bitcoin. This is a massive problem when you have a seriously unequal playing field. And this can only exist in the unregulated asset that is Bitcoin. It's a double-edged sword. There are virtues to being unregulated, but here we can clearly see that it is, a substantial peril for all investors, given that so few control substantially all assets. And this is what happened with Bitcoin, where the supply is so tightly controlled by so few. If indeed those investors ever want to take any profits, basically the asset class it becomes a wash. And this is one of the dangers. And it's really why we've seen such volatility with Bitcoin, and also to the downside, the down draws. If there is any attempt by these, sort of original investors to take profits, to take risk movements, the volume will drown the asset.
But, Peter, it is a force right now. Why are you still so against what could be the next big thing as an emerging currency?
It's not an emerging currency. It's a bubble, and it's certainly gotten very large. Look, Elon Musk may be a brilliant engineer, and he may have more money than all of us, but his understanding of money is actually flawed. Bitcoin is not money. Initially, it was intended to be a digital fiat currency, except it didn't really work well as a medium of exchange. So they kind of reinvented it as a store of value, kind of like a digital version of gold, except Bitcoin doesn't have any of gold's value as a metal. And so if it doesn't have any value, it can't be a store of value. All Bitcoin is a digital token. Now, you have people who are collecting Bitcoin, you have people who are trading it, but at the end of the day, when the music stops playing, I don't think a Bitcoin collection is going to have much value. Beanie Babies, at least they were fuzzy, cuddly, and fluffy, but Bitcoin is nothing.
So I've heard this argument, the individual blocks versus the Satoshis. It's really the amount of code, right? The amount of code that can be a toll road to the Internet 2.0. The only thing that blockchain and the technology that Bitcoin is utilizing really is the ability to make something unique in the digital world without having SolarWinds or Robinhood or any of the other groups that I heard earlier in the show, Liz, people be concerned about. The current case that most people are worried about is governments, right? There's a distrust of governments, and they want them out of their money.
Right.
Well,
Peter, quickly, your final thought, and has Elon responded to your request to do a Clubhouse discussion?
Not yet. Maybe you can try to cajole them into that. But look, the main problem with Bitcoin, it doesn't even matter how many there are if they're not worth anything. I mean, ultimately, they have a market price. And Liz, you're friendly with Warren Buffett. He's always said price is what you pay, but value is what you get. And when you pay $50,000 to get one Bitcoin, you get no value. And eventually, the price is going to equal the market value.
Wow.
The same thing ultimately happens with fiat currencies. They decline to their intrinsic value. Bitcoin is like fiat in that all of its value is based on faith. Gold is real. It's the most useful metal in the world, and it derives its value from its metallic properties.
Ultimately, Bitcoin is going to collapse, and any demand that it might have siphoned away from gold is going to return to gold. I mean, the Bitcoin story, it's one of a bubble. It's, a modern day tulip mania. It's fool's gold. I've said that from the beginning. It doesn't matter that the price has gone up. I mean, I've never said that the bubble couldn't get bigger or that the price couldn't rise. My only point is that the price is unsustainable because Bitcoin itself has no value. It has no use. Yes, if people believe the price is going to go up and they're willing to buy it, well, the price will go up. But it only goes up if more people make the same mistake and are willing to pay an even higher price than the last fool. Well, eventually the supply of fools runs out and the greatest fool ends up as the bag holder. I think there are two kinds of people that are in Bitcoin. There are the people who don't know it's a bubble and don't know it's worthless. And then there are the people who do know, but they don't care because, the price is going up and they figure they're going to get out before the bottom drops out. But I think that's a lot harder to do. People think that they could get out, but I think most people are going to be trapped. There's never been a market that's moved up like this that hasn't come crashing down, including Bitcoin. Look what happened to Bitcoin in 2017. It went way up and then it was down 70% in 2018. I think the odds are much better that we have a big drop in 2021, like we had in 2018, than another big move up.